least in my life with the people I've worked with, than to be able to say, I have no regrets when I reach whatever that point may be, where I take my leave. And I trust and I believe that that's true for you too. Because if you are living with anything, any form of regret, it says something is incomplete. Something has not been addressed. Something has not been integrated. Something has not been brought into fruition. So, let me just share for a moment with you. This is really today about acquiring an authentic voice, your voice. It is not about my voice. You will hear it for quite a while by the time I finish. It's not about Sonia's voice, it's not about Anik's voice, it's not about Bob's voice. But equally so, it's not about your mum, your dad, your teacher, your preacher. It's not about any of those voices. It is about the voice which came in with the originality and the authenticity of who you are and what you are at birth. But the sad thing for most of us is we don't know who we are. We got caught up in a mass cultural hypnosis. There has been this massive hypnotic spell which has been cast upon us, and we have tended to bathe in the toxicity of other people's thought processes. And when we do that, the limitations which we impose upon ourselves are unconscious. And then we live out all of the things which were just being shared just a few moments ago by Sonia, when she was speaking about those limiting beliefs. When Bob was talking yesterday, and he showed you the subconscious mind and how, we just drip feed all of these basic principles in, and we start breathing and living other people's reality. Well, let's therefore just spend a moment and reflect on something. I want to check, make sure something works here, right? This is yes, all right, yes. No, this is yes. All right, this is no, and this is no. The first time I was in India, many moons ago, I actually learned how to come to terms with this business. And that was, I was standing in the very south of India and I wanted to catch a bus. I had a backpack on and I was travelling across, I literally was going overland. And wherever I ended up was where I wanted to be. It's a good place too. It's a good place to be wherever you want to be, and just be there. And I went up to these folks in the south of India and I said, I need the bus to Trivandrum. I said, is this the right bus? So I waited. And then the bus leaves and everybody leaves on it. I'm about the only person standing at the bus station. And then I said to this guy next to me, I said, do you speak English? Yes, of course. And I thought, well, that's a problem because he's nodding his head and he's saying yes. I said, the bus to Trivandrum is gone. That bus left. It's finished. It's gone. So whenever Anik stands at the front, he gets excited if he goes like this. You know there's two possibilities. There's yes or no. He covers himself. No, right. All right, let's get down to tea and tax. What I'm asking you to do is to come with me on a journey. I want you to open the door to the inner mysteries. Because for a long period of time, we have had a budding, developing, building, alternative thought movement throughout time. And it started way back at the turn of the last century. And we had movements, thought movements, the new thought movement. We had the likes of Dale Carnegie. We had, obviously, Napoleon Hill, U.S. Anderson. Many of those writers and speakers and businessmen who came forward and they gave you ideas and principles and thoughts about how you could work with who you are, what you are, and build a quality life and attract into that life all that you truly desire to bring. Now, what we've managed to do somehow is, as we become more and more acquainted with the teachings across time and space, we have synthesized everything Eastern and everything Western. We've taken physics and we've taken the basics of everything that's existed and we've created something, and that's the thought movement of today. But inside there, we have to be extremely careful that we don't get confused. Because if we get confused, we can miss some of the most important elements. And what I will say to you before we go anywhere today, the one thing I love about him, because I'm standing here looking at him, is, yes, I see myself 30 years ago, a little bit slimmer, but I see myself 30 years ago. However, what I see is a clarity in his intent, a purpose-driven life, with the ability to communicate a message which will help each and every one of you. I will come to that in a moment. But what I want to tell you about is a story about a gentleman who came to a retreat I ran many years ago back in the southwest of Western Australia. Now, this is going back to the time when AIDS had just been discovered and people were coming in for healing and health treatment. So, together with a group of doctors, and these were oncologists and radiologists, there were also people like Reiki healers and massage therapists and nutritionists, you know, the whole spectrum. We gathered together for 5 full days. And we had a crowd just under 100. And these folks came in and they had every single possible variation of an affliction associated with either terminal cancer or something in the arena of AIDS. And so this was a full-on, full-blown gathering of people who were confronting something. And what they were confronting was they didn't know whether tomorrow would come. They didn't know whether they would be able to realize their dreams. They didn't know whether wealth was something that would be part of their life or just there was no life to come. And we spent 5 days. And we worked ourselves through, we looked at every aspect of what it is to be human, what it is to be conscious. And as we moved through that, I became very aware of one gentleman. He was actually on his age, he was 31. And he was wheeled in to the retreat. 31 years of age. He was wheeled into the retreat and he was on a drip which was following him. When I inquired of the doctor that brought him, what she said was, well, he was in hospital on the weekend and the message that was given to him, you need to go home to die. Because his life expectancy was 4 days. He was given 4 days to live. So the doctor said, why don't you go to the retreat? Why don't you come down and do something and let's just not be at home for this one. She was a magnificent doctor, very, very acutely aware of the role of consciousness. So he comes in and he's in that retreat and he's sitting there, or to the degree he could be sitting, he was in one of those bean bags, the Buddha bags, you know, the things that they break and you spend the better part of the next 6 months getting rid of the beans. And we went through everything that was humanly possible to explore. Come Saturday evening, he came up of his own accord using crutches. And he got to the front where I was talking and he said, I have to go. Now, he was due to die on Sunday. You got the timetable here? We're going to talk about time in a minute because that's a very important issue. He was due to pass on Sunday. He went home. 3 months later, I get a phone call from the doctor and she says, I want to tell you about Joseph. I said, tell me about Joseph. She said, well, he was given a clean bill of health this morning. Totally clean. There's not a trace of cancer in his body. He is absolutely, perfectly, totally, completely, 100% clean. That's great. That's the way it should be. because we do not have to fall victim to perceptions and projections. 3 months later, he died. But he had no cancer on the time when he turned up into that 3 months later after that retreat. 3 months further down the track, he died. What happened? I'll tell you what happened, and this is instructive for everything which you've been watching and listening to and learning, because if you're going to apply the principles which have been shared here, you've got to make it real. You've got to bring it into your heart. You've got to live from the deepest place of your being, where the authenticity of who you are radiates like a brilliant sun that casts its light across 1,000,000 universes. Anything less than that, and you are denying the blessing of your own birth. What happened to Joseph was, the time frame this occurred, we were in an economic downturn in West Australia. That's where I'm from, in case you haven't worked it out. And I'm behaving. My wife told me, Regina said, if you don't behave, you will be in trouble. So, an economic downturn. And what happened was, this fella had been part of a family business in the city. He was of strong ethnic origin. His father said to him, Joseph, you run the business. You take up the business, you make it a big success. And he said, Papa, I don't want to do this. I want to go and live my life. But Joseph, he said, you live the life through the business. It's my business, it's your grandfather's business, this is your business you live. I don't want to live. You must. And what happened was, he started to run the business. Well, when he ran the business went into the ground, and then along comes the downturn, and he loses everything. The business goes almost underneath and into bankruptcy. Got the picture? Remember this, yes? Yes, got it. He gets a clean bill of health. A perfectly clean bill of health. Right? Now, during the healing time, watch what happens. All of his mother and father and family and uncle, they all pull back a little to say, he's sick. We have to love him. We have to care for him. And when he got better, Giuseppe, the business is a mess, and it got worse because of you. You got sick. And look what happened, huh? And then all of a sudden, he's back and he's got all these projections, all these thoughts, all these energetic entities projected onto him. It reactivated a deep memory inside his being to such a degree that all of the memory, which is thought process, crystallized inside the skeletal structure of your body, started to come alive, and then he rebirthed the entire pattern of the disease, and he left the planet. Now, the question is, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with cancer, or you're dealing with AIDS, or you're dealing with lack, or you're dealing with a relationship issue, it is time to live your truth. And in order to live your truth, it's important that you understand what it is to be human. So let me ask you a question. Look at these arms moving here. Are you ready? Say yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness me. Are the arms working? Yes?
Yes.
All right, has anybody here got a physical body?
Yes.
Including the ascended masters that are sitting all over the place. Good. Right. Now, are you your physical body?
No.
Oh, don't you love it? Now, look at what's going on here. Are you your physical body? If I say to you, are you your physical body? The right answer, because of the group, is no. You know that you're not your physical body. But how many people here act as if they are their physical body? All right, let me ask you this. Has anybody ever had a little bit of discomfort and pain in their body?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Do you notice it?
Yes.
But you're not your physical body. However, what takes precedence when you're in physical pain? Your body. How many times have you ever got sick and your physical body takes precedence? All the time, right? Whenever you're sick, the physical body takes over. However, bottom line is, physical body is an illusion. Yeah, I knew that. All right. Let's go a step further. Are you your emotional body? Have you ever had an emotion here once in your life? Yes. Are you emotionally alive? Yes. Have you ever had an emotion?
Yes.
That's all get on to the preachers. No. You've had an emotion. You've had one emotion in your life. Are you your emotions?
No.
How many times do you ever act as if you are your emotions? Oh, I know you don't, but the person next to you might. You're not your physical body. You're not your emotional body. Has anybody here ever held a belief about anything?
Yes.
Are you your mental bodies? No. Has anyone here ever held a belief about anything and got into a bit of an argument to defend it? Has anyone here ever had a belief, got into an argument to defend it, and halfway through they realise they're wrong? Has anyone here ever got into a belief about anything, halfway through they realise they're wrong, and what transpires is that they hear the voice inside that says, this is not going anywhere. This is really not good. And so what you've got is this process coming down, this higher truth. I want to tell you something about the higher truth. The higher truth is the power before thought. The higher truth is the power before thought. It is not the power of thought. The power of thought is what you're defending and calling your belief. Now, the easiest way to avoid truth is to believe something. It's the easiest way to go. Live out of someone else's beliefs. The end result is you sacrifice and you give up everything that is sacred. That's not going to help you. Because, you see, you're greater than your physical body. You're greater than your emotional body. You're greater than your mental body. You're greater than your spiritual body. And I'm going to go there. And this is where, the different signs and the burning on the stake comes out. You're greater than anything you can imagine. You're greater than God. You say, oh my God. Whoa, this guy's in trouble now. No. Because what happens is, inside creation, we have to create. And so we anthropomorphize even God. But if you're doing that, what are you doing? You're limiting the very power before thought. By creating, actually projecting and manifesting something, it doesn't matter what you call, even to say it's the universe. You've got a concept of universe, haven't you? You've got to in order to relate to it. It has to be something. But what about that which is before the universe? When I was a kid, not so long ago, when I was a kid, one thing I used to do, I'd go to bed, lay down, 5 years of age, and I'd lay there and I'd say, all right, better say my prayers. So I'd say my prayers. I'd say, how far do I and how do I think I'm over very fast. Then I'd say, please bless my mum, my dad, my brother, even though it's a pain in the backside. Bless the Beatles. Bless the Stones. I went through the record, the whole lot. Bless them all, and as you do, then I would say this. And bless yourself whoever you are. Because if you exist, this is just as a kid, if you exist, that means you've been created. It's got to be, you exist, but what's nothing? Because if you're something, there's got to be nothing. There's something, there's nothing. What's behind? So I thought, well, that means you came from something, so therefore you exist. So bless you too. And I keep going until they pass out. And that passing out took me to a realm where I would meet in spirit some of the most beautiful angelic beings, some of the most profound, divine, blessed masters of light across time and space. Now, I know we're not here for that, so I'm not going to dwell on that, but what I'm telling you is this. There is a power before thought. In indigenous teachings, in Aboriginal indigenous teachings, the indigenous teachings are right across the spectrum, right across the board, in all of the native areas. They speak of the dream time. Now, I'm actually talking to you about a dream board, right? And a vision board, which is the extension of the dream board. What are you dealing with there? What are you dealing with? Say, images, right? Well, according to the dream time, the Aboriginals say, we live in the dream time. Everything is a dream. The dreamer dreams the dream into being. And as the dreamer dreams the dream into being, you, I, all of us are dreamed into the dream. But the beauty of it is we have the power of the dream within us. And they teach that what you do is dream your way back to the dreamer. Now, if you dream your way back to the dreamer, you've got to have some tools, some techniques, some principles, some understandings, so that you don't live in someone else's dream, such as has happened with Joseph. You see, it's very, very easy to live another person's dream. It takes courage to live your own dream. And so this process of living your dream and working the principle and moving through is very, very simple. We've already type of explored one primary thing here. That is, you're greater than your physical, greater than your emotional, greater than your mental, you're greater than your spiritual, greater than anything you can imagine, because you are the power in one, in unity, behind the thought. So, what this means, very simply, if I look at any one of you, for instance, let's say I look at Glenn here. I come down, I look at Glenn, I like Glenn, he's one of the mentor group, and he's got a new program just about, are you coming out when? About 3-4 days? Okay, we'll get that done tonight. The moment Cliffhanger proves it, alright. Now, I could look at Glenn here and think Glenn is the greatest guy I have ever met. There's never been a human being on the planet like Glenn. He is just a top-notch guy. Over here, I'd say, Tom's sitting right next to him. Tom thinks Glenn is a pain in the backside. He's an absolute, complete, total pain in the backside. Well, my question is, who's right, who's wrong? Right. Now, watch what's happening here. I'm creating Glenn through all the filters and all the dream that I have brought to the table, as also has Tom created Glenn. But you see, the two creations are very simple. My universe, including Glenn, who I say was great, right, and Tom says was not so great, my universe expands out to include every problem, every issue, every person, every incident that has ever happened in my life. Everything is part of my dream. When I cease to exist in the conscious third dimensional reality, so do all of you, all these tables, this venue, Amen, the hotel, the whole universe is gone. Because I, through the process of my dream, use the power of thought to move through and bring forth a creation. Therefore, in the same way, Tom has done exactly the same thing. He has created all his challenges, opportunities, problems, goals, solutions. Now, something that was shared by Sonia just recently, just before she closed off, was the issue of time. Now, let me just address this for a moment, because it is important. You're here and you have a vision. You have a dream. You want to create. You want to bring something forward. Well, if you truly want to bring it forward, you do have to understand something very important. We are talking about that power which precedes thought. That power which precedes thought is the power of pure love. Love is what will heal. Love is what will bring about a complete transformation of every single element of your being. Now, bear with me on this and watch as we go through this. A number of years ago, well, actually we've gone back quite a few years on this one, but I want to share this with you. A number of years ago, my mother, bless her heart, well, actually from childhood, I'll share a story about this. From childhood, she was born of gypsy blood. Alright? And she was extremely psychic. I mean, she could just see, understand, know, sense, feel. The whole of everything was going around her. What happened as a result of that was that many times she ended up going into an institution to be treated. Because she could see things, she knew things, she understood things, and what would happen is she didn't therefore conform to the social norms of the world in which she lived. I watched this as a kid. I grew up visiting institutions. My mother, however, was an exceptionally powerful lady. She had a very powerful mind. And one day she turned up to one of these programs about, I don't know, 35 years ago or something. And she comes in and she sits there and she starts listening. And she says, she gets afterwards and she says, does this stuff really work? I said, what do you mean? She said, use your mind and manifest. Use your mind and manifest. Does it really work? I said, yeah, of course it does. She said, really? I said, yeah. She goes, She says, well, a lot of people are winning competitions. She said, I think it would be good if I won them. I said, fine, good, go for it. Around about, I think it was about 2 months later, she goes up to this local shopping centre where they're having a raffle and a big draw. In the centre, there's a gentleman there, he's got the bin, and you have to be present for your name to be drawn. So, she's there, she's right at the back, and no one can hear the announcer. So the first person's drawn, no one claims it. The second person's drawn, no one claims it. By the time the third one comes, my mother's off. She's going to the front. She goes all the way through the crowd. She gets to the front. She says, excuse me. He says, yes. She said, nobody can hear the names you're brought. He says, don't worry, that's fine. Puts his hand in and he says, Mrs. Patricia Taylor of Bullagee. She goes, oh, excuse me. Goes back. And she won a cruise for herself and my father. All expenses, 3.5 weeks in a penthouse suite. All expenses paid. And she was quite chuffed. She thought that was a good result. So then she decided she was going to keep working with this mind of hers. Right? So around about 3 months after that, I got a phone call from my father. My father gets me about 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and he says, son, I said, Dad. Son, Dad. Son. Yeah. He said, go and get the paper. I said, why? He said, go and get the paper. I said, Dad, you got in at 3 in the morning. Go and get the paper and open up to page 3. So I get the paper. There they are, a mugshot of my mother and father. On page 3 of the national paper. They had won another competition. This time was all expenses paid. Flying from West Australia through to New Zealand, a week in New Zealand, 2 weeks in Hawaii, and then back to my mother decides it's a good thing to keep winning. So then what does she do? She goes a step further, and oh, by the way, she gets on the plane, and the attendant walks past, and he says, hello, darling, how are you? It was a Kiwi, like Mark, and she said, well, this is my first time to have actually had a flying holiday. He said, well, is that so? She said, yes, we won. He said, well, they will look after me, put them in first class, right? So she's got this whole mindset working. Since then, she did the following. She entered the Wheel of Fortune. Now you've got to understand, she never had a penny to her name. She was on a pension. Right? She entered the Wheel of Fortune. You know the Wheel of Fortune thing? And they have a home viewer They have a home viewer and then they have celebrities. Her name's drawn out. And so she writes down the initials, my initials, NRT, my father's first initial and my brother's first initial. Those letters go on. The lady draws it out, she wins, and she gets another $28,000. So this is going well. The next thing you know is she decides she's going to enter lotto. Right? So she enters lotto and she wins $30,000. So this keeps going. She used the $30,000 to get on the plane and fly over and see Regina and myself. My father got very sick on the way across. He ended up in hospital in New Jersey. And when he ended up in hospital in New Jersey, the end result of that was that they actually, he was very seriously ill. By the time they got back, my mother's entire reality had shattered. Because what had happened was, she had walked out of the dream that had kept her locked in. The thought process, the earlier one, that she wasn't worthy, that she was against society because she was having different thought processes. And as she came out of it and started to realize, using the principles we're working with here, she started to live another truth that she could direct her consciousness to create reality that was different. The moment my father got sick, all of the unconscious fears came back, and she fell into a heap, and literally they lost just about everything. Now, my reason for sharing this is the same reason as I shared the point about Joseph in the beginning. What you've got is, you have a young man who was diagnosed that he was going to die of cancer. He gets better, and then all of the thought forms end up being projected against him. My mother, she comes through from nothing, reaches up to great riches, proves herself she can do it all. The moment there's a threat to her reality, everything collapses around her. You're living inside the dream. You need to be eternally conscious of your thought process. So let me ask you this, all right? And it's a reasonable question to ask you. If you're dealing with thoughts, my first question is, what on earth are thoughts? You're sitting here talking about thoughts. Therefore, it's important. What is a thought? What is it? Ask yourself that. It's quite straightforward if you actually think about it.
Energy.
Is a thought energy?
Voice in your head.
Focused energy? Okay, look, think about this. Are thoughts important? How important? If they are important as we believe they are, how many of you are conscious of every thought you have? You say, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. How many of you take the time every single day